Well, okay then. And we are live. No, we're not live. We're recording. And as a good video, right? As a good continuation to the last video that we just made, right? If you don't want to, go back and check out the video that we just made, I just reacted to Economics Explained for if we are in a recession and hyperinflation at the same time. Very interesting video. If you want to, go watch that reaction video. It is like 28 minutes long, though, just to let you know. A lot of videos on the channel might be long, so, I'm going to try to make it more action-packed. If I do keep them that long, I think I need to make them short because people's time is valuable. If people are here watching me, I want them to be entertained in a way. I want them to, not feel so bored, not just be like, man, shut the fuck up and react to the video already. Because I know there's a lot of people that are like that. There are people that are say, like, just play the fucking video and stop pausing. I haven't personally received that, which is surprising. I have not gotten a single comment. I think people are holding back. I need haters, okay? Because haters are my... I don't need to hire a consultation for them, because I need to hire more haters. I don't need a consultation. I don't need to consult with anybody to tell me what I could do better, what I could be doing this. All I need to do is hire more haters. So if you're a hater, tell me. Sorry. What could I do? And I will keep it in mind. And I'll think about it. I'm not gonna ruin. I'm not gonna go and have that destroy my life. If you say that I'm ugly, and that could be how I can make my videos better, be less ugly. That'd be funny, man. But we got Einzel Gang. We're back with philosophy. I don't think I need to say anything else. Can money buy happiness? That is the biggest question. That's a big question that people do honestly ask. He said, I'm glad that he even in the title has put there that the answer is yes, according to philosophy and science. Of course, you needed to have that there. According to philosophy and science, I think it's hard to argue if philosophy and science are both in that boat right there. They're both in agreement with that. And I was reading this comment right here, which is, I think it should be a good thing to read before we head in, is he says, I'm an extreme minimalist, but yes, having enough money to support the life you want, even a simple one, is a jolly nice thing indeed. Yes or no question, both scenarios are philosophically correct and deep. I will be forever indebted to you for changing my whole life. Okay, enough. Let's go.
Some people claim that money is the root of all evil, pointing at the enormous amount of violence humanity imposes on itself, motivated
to say it's the root of all evil is an oversimplification and a half.
by acquiring it. Others argue that not money, but the lack of money is the root of evil, as people, out of fear of being unable to pay the bills or provide for their families, sacrifice their morals to...
Yeah, it is a good driving force when it's morals. We're animals. Fuck your morals. Have you seen nature? Have you seen what the fuck goes on out there in those savannas and those jungles? In the wilderness? Nature, you scary. You know that. And we're just a part of nature. You wouldn't think so because we're humans, and yes, we do develop these things called morals, but when it's a life and death situation and you need to survive and you need to eat, it's eat or be eaten. It's kill or be killed. You don't understand. You go to the most primal shit. That's why it's so good to not have motherfuckers doing that fuck shit, to have people on an equal, to a more relatively equal place in a socioeconomic standpoint, because then you don't have these motherfuckers that might be down here, who are just so, they don't even have boots to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Like, they're so shitty. Bad education, bad healthcare, bad housing, bad everything. Everything's bad. Everything's shitty. Everything's shittier than these people right here, who are just middle class, right? Like, these people down here, to them, life is much more they don't have their basic hierarchy of needs like these guys do. These guys find it much easier to have their basic, Maslow's hierarchy of needs of shelter, safety, all of that stuff. They're also, more better behaved in a lot of ways, and stuff like that. And of course, you can only expect that because when motherfuckers don't have the shit required, then what do they go and do? They go and steal, they go and rob. They go and do fuck shit. They go and do stuff that you'd probably see only animals doing because they're in the wilderness and we don't think we're in the wilderness, but technically we are. And you see it. It comes out mostly when people are stressed out, when people are, they're in need of something, when they're desperate. It comes out, that primal nature. You'll see it in them. It's in all of us. You can't act like it's not in any of us. We'd probably be doing all the same shit that you see people doing, that you go and you criticize and you say, man, fuck those guys. Man, I wouldn't, fuck those guys. Why do they always be doing all that shit? Why do they always be robbing and stealing? Fucking dirty, blah, 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 whatever the fuck. Why don't they just pull themselves up by their bootstraps? Well, because they don't have boots. That's why they don't do that. Let's go. Sorry.
Survive. Yet, practice shows that greed and immoral behavior remain prevalent among those with more than enough, while many poor people are generous and kind. The relationship between humans and money seems complicated. For example, some say money can't buy happiness, because happiness comes from within, or perhaps from things money can't buy, like love, friendship, inner peace.
Well, yeah, but to be able to find that within, you'd be put in a better position to find that within if you didn't have to struggle about where your next meal's coming from now, wouldn't you?
Purpose. Others claim that money certainly can buy happiness, as money buys you great experiences, like traveling around the world or going to festivals and concerts.
Sure.
Moreover, with enough cash, you'll be able to retire and live without the stress of working a job and being unable to bear the cost of living. Unsurprisingly, the question, can money make you happy, often leads to endless discussions without satisfying answers. Nevertheless, money makes the world go round. Aside from an extreme minority, we all need money to live our lives. But there are differences in how we handle money and how we experience its value. Some get by with little, and others are perpetual squanderers. Some are perfectly content, earning a modest salary, supporting their frugal lifestyles. Others have millions, live lavishly, and only crave more. So it seems that the amount of money you have doesn't correlate with how happy you feel. But does that mean that money cannot buy you happiness? Not necessarily. According to research and the ideas of certain philosophers like Epicurus and Schopenhauer, money can buy you happiness. You just have to know how to spend it.
Yes, sir. I agree.
Many things in life come with a price tag, varying from the essentials like food and water to extremely luxurious items like a $17 million Rolex. But in terms of happiness, not all
somebody selling... I seen this post the other day. There's a bottle of water that goes for like $137. Just because you're paying for the bottle. That's it. It's a nice looking bottle. Looks luxurious. Looks deluxe. Looks expensive bottle. Looks like an expensive bottle. It's like made out of glass. I don't know what the fuck it's made out of, but it looks cool. It has a cool design. But $137 for a bottle of water? Like, are you serious right now? Are you serious?
Purchases are worth spending your money on, as some are disproportionately expensive compared to the actual pleasure they provide. To determine the smartest purchases, we might want to look at Epicurus' philosophy of pleasure. The ancient Greek philosopher distinguished natural and vain desires, which we have explored more extensively in the video The Philosophy of Pleasure. Epicurus distinguishes between necessary and unnecessary natural desires. Necessary natural desires are hunger, thirst, and the need for rest and sleep, as we naturally desire them and also need to satisfy them for survival. Unnecessary natural desires are the desire for expensive food, having an extensive social circle, or a sexual encounter, as we also naturally desire such things, but don't need them for survival. Vain desires, however, we don't need for survival and aren't natural. For example, who needs a $17 million Rolex? It doesn't satisfy any natural desire. The desire for this item comes from opinion. We believe a costly watch makes us happy, probably because of clever marketing or because people in our peer groups say so.
Felt that way.
Also, the desire for expensive things can never be satisfied, unlike, for example, hunger or thirst. We get bored quickly after purchasing something costly that we don't need. There's also no natural limit to such pleasures, so we tend to crave more after we obtain them. On top of that, a person needing such expensive things walks an arduous path of constant perturbation because of fear of loss, not receiving the things one desires, and the stress and hard work to satisfy his cravings. Moreover, the person accumulating extreme wealth paints a target on his back. According to Epicurus, we don't need vain desires to experience happiness. However, we need to fulfill our natural desires. Pleasures that satisfy these desires are cheap and easy to obtain, compared to most vain pleasures. How many meals and thirst-quenching beverages will $17 million buy? Probably more than we need within 10 human lifetimes. Epicurus stated, "Natural wealth is limited and easily obtained. The wealth defined by vain fancies is always beyond reach." End quote.
Damn.
Even though the example of the $17 million Rolex is extreme, Epicurus' underlying lesson is that happiness does not ensue by adding to one's riches, but by keeping one's desires fulfilled. And that the ultimate shortcut to keeping one's desires fulfilled is keeping them limited and easily satiable. Therefore, satisfying vain desires.
Yeah, but it's not like it's also... How is it unnatural exactly to want a Rolex? I mean, how is it unnatural in what way exactly? Like, of course, it's much easier to see consuming water, resting, it's stuff that the body desperately needs. But just like you said, but you did have that section there which confused me a little bit about the natural, like, sort of non-necessities, but they're still natural, like sex, and I forgot the other thing. Well, what counts exactly as unnatural? I mean, it's very understandable for people to want to have these things. Like, we live in a social society. We live in a duality where we aren't just an individual. We live in a society. We are a part of a country. We are a part of a social circle. We are part of a social structure, whatever that one might be. Many of them, actually. It's not just one. And we all know it's a very naturally caused thing. It's not an unnatural thing for people to want to be seen as high status, for people to want to be seen to be living a more of a luxurious life, to, be seen as a high value person, high status, and that is understandable. I wouldn't know how important it is, like, to me necessarily to be seen as high value or high status. I don't see that as much of a necessity, but I do see how that's a natural thing. I mean, you can't really do anything that's not natural. I mean, we're animals at the end of the day. Of course motherfuckers are going to have these yachts. I mean, it's sort of a natural thing to want to be so selfish. It's a natural part of our brain to be selfish. We're not necessarily just selfless beings. We're not. As much as we'd like to think so, no. We're selfish, self-deceiving. We have fragile egos. That's why these motherfuckers love buying these yachts, because then it helps boost up their fragile egos. That's why you never should be so surprised about people's indifference or maybe betrayal. People are going to do those things even when you least expect them. Why? Is that an unnatural thing for them to do just because maybe you don't deserve for them to do that to you and you've been nothing but great to them, but they're going to go and backstab you, they're going to go cheat on you? Is that necessarily unnatural? Just because it's technically kind of a shitty thing to do? No, I think it's still pretty natural. Pretty natural what people do. Nothing people do is necessarily unnatural. It's all natural. Like, to me, if you ask me, nothing can be not natural. I mean, everything is nature. Anything that comes from it is going to be nature. Not unnatural, in my opinion. That's just my take on it, though. That's my take, I do see how, Rolex, that's a specific one. Never really been into it myself. I wouldn't get it. Even if I had $1 billion, I wouldn't buy that Rolex. I just wouldn't, because I don't care. I'd be spending it much better, in a much better way. Don't really care about a Rolex. Never was interested in them. Never liked them. I can't even read them that well. I like more of a digital screen where I can just see the straight time and number. I can't even read that one that well. I'm not gonna hold you.
Desires for happiness isn't an effective strategy. The juice simply isn't worth the squeeze. Moreover, a Harvard study suggested that buying many small pleasures is better than fewer larger ones. One of life's most significant stressors is needing money to survive, which for most people comes from working a job. But if your stack of cash is large enough, you won't be required to work to survive, and thus you'll be free of the stress of needing to be employed. We could live according to Epicurus' ideals, but that doesn't relieve us from having to work, exchanging our bodies and time for a salary. Yes. Not that there's anything inherently wrong with that. Many people happily work their jobs in exchange for money, as it covers their living expenses, allows them to buy things they want and enjoy.
Depends on what you define as wrong. I mean, can you expect them to do anything else? I mean, as long as the system's not changed, they're still going to have to do this. How can it possibly be wrong for them to do it? They're going to have to do it. I mean, sure, it's maybe morally wrong to force people to slave away for the sake of a system called capitalism so that the people at the top can get richer while these motherfuckers are slaving. that's just the way it always has been. But be careful with the "that's just" claims, because it doesn't mean that that's how it always has to be. I just, like I said in the economy, no, not the economy video, like I said in the socialism video, I don't see motherfuckers creating think tanks to go and change this anytime soon. Motherfuckers aren't working to change and maybe make a better system. But it seems like we're going in a better direction anyway. But at this point, hella motherfuckers have already slaved their lives away. Hella motherfuckers. Hella. Even if we are working in a better direction where maybe you don't even need to change the system of capitalism, maybe somehow, some way, more shit can get automated. Maybe we'll find a way. More shit can get automated. Maybe we won't need motherfuckers doing what this guy's doing here, pushing this barrel. Right? Maybe we won't.
For leisure in their pastimes.
But still.
But for others, sacrificing a great chunk of their time and energy for a salary is a source of unhappiness. They would rather spend that time doing something else, like studying philosophy or creating art.
Me, baby!
For these people, money wouldn't just be a means of paying for pleasure. They would use their money to buy time. Similar to Epicurus, philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer distinguishes different kinds of pleasures. The lower pleasures he called movements of the will, which are always satisfied at the cost of pain. For example, playing cards, horse racing, traveling, and all kinds of amusement that arouses the senses. But he considered the highest pleasures of the intellect: thought, observation, meditation, a taste for poetry or music, learning, reading, invention, philosophy, and the like. This inner wealth is relatively cheap. It doesn't require much money or bodily energy. However, the one asset needed to engage in the highest pleasures is time. I quote, "The man of inner wealth wants nothing from the outside world but the negative gift of undisturbed leisure to develop and mature his intellectual faculties, that is, to enjoy his wealth. In short, he wants permission to be himself his whole life long, every day and every hour." End quote. Not just for the intellectual, but for anyone who values leisure over material things, buying time is money well spent. A survey by researchers at the University of British Columbia suggests that using money to buy time is linked to greater life satisfaction. For example, we buy time by hiring a house cleaning service or someone who cooks. In some cases, we achieve enough wealth to pay off the suffering of having to work. For example, we could outsource the work necessary to generate income or live off investments. In today's day and age, we call this financial freedom. Financial freedom isn't about being insanely rich. It's about having enough financial resources to live the way you want. If we wish to spend most of our time on intellectual pursuits or indulge in Epicurus' simple pleasures, money allows us to live this lifestyle. For many, if not most people, frugality is required to achieve enough financial resources to retire and maintain the necessary capital. The fewer expenses we have, the less money we need, and the easier it is to be financially free. Furthermore, Schopenhauer suggested we should look.
Be careful going down the monk route, which I never liked the whole thing. It seemed like a cop-out. I can't help but use that word. I don't know why. I don't know if maybe I'm just taking it at face value or something's happening there, but every time I think of a monk, it seems like a cop-out. It seems like all you're doing is you're trying to avoid one piece of your duality. Like all you're doing is you're ignoring one part of your duality. You're ignoring a lot of your needs just for the sake of you, just because you understand that fact, right? You understand that to desire something is you're flipping a coin with two sides, and two sides of that coin. It's a two-sided coin called pain and pleasure, right? When you flip that coin, you open yourself up to having desire, not pain and pleasure, desire and pain, right? When you flip that coin, you desire something, but to desire something means that you have to, sort of introspectively sort of come to the agreement, come to the reality that what it is that you want, you don't have, right? Whatever you desire could be a more whatever, something bigger, something that you don't have. You have to admit that you don't have that thing. And when you do that, well, what is the natural driving force that would get you to desire something, right? It's like electromagnetism. Like they come hand in hand. It works the same thing. Desire and pain come hand in hand. Electromagnetism. Sure, we might see them as different things, electricity, magnetism, but you'll find them, they cause each other, you know, they cause each other, and I do see that in that to desire something, like I said, you have to understand, I don't have something, that's pain. Now, what the monks do is they just say, you know what, I'm just going to desire less things and I'm going to desire nothing, because then that means that I won't have to flip that coin, and then I won't have to open myself up and be vulnerable to pain that I see all these other motherfuckers doing. And I'm just going to say that what they're doing is unnecessary. I'm going to say that they're unnecessarily, maybe even unnaturally flipping that coin, because maybe it's not their natural inclination to flip that coin, and maybe it's not necessary for them to flip that coin, for them to live that, enlightened lifestyle, mindfulness, to live that monk lifestyle. I mean, no disrespect to monks, I do see value in that in a lot of ways. There's a lot of value to be found in desiring less things, like Naval said. He didn't say it, but he quoted it one time, where he said that, he quoted a guy that said, the sick man wants just one thing, but the happy man, he wants 10,000 things. And that's very true. That is very, very true. When you're never going to be satisfied. That's just something you have to know, and you have to completely understand your relationship with happiness. You have to know what happiness is, and you have to know that it's transient, just like everything else, just like relationships, just like money, just like life and experiences. They're transient. They're ever changing and constantly moving and in a state of flux, right? Nothing is certain. Nothing just stays the same, static. Things change. You have to accept that, and you have to realize that happiness is just like that. It's fleeting. It's not lasting. And it's like, what if you do have it? If you do experience it, if you do feel something that feels any bit like happiness, then cherish it, and just enjoy it and live in it, right? Because, well, probably something's gonna come that's gonna fuck that up, or you're gonna desire something new, which is gonna fuck that up. Whatever ways that fucking that up might come from, whether it be from laws, or desiring something new, or something shitty happens, Murphy's Law, whatever the fuck it might be. You have to be prepared. You have to understand, well, that's just the way that life is. That's just the way life is. Sure, some things might feel unpleasant, but life is not just meant to be pleasant. Life is not just meant to be, for me to be feeling pleasant. Just because I like it does not mean that that's necessarily what it has to always be like. Just because I enjoyed it, Life is not just about enjoyment. It's more about experience. It's not just about feeling good. It's about experience. It's everything that comes with it. But there is a lot of unnecessary stuff that comes with it when you realize that you're being born into this world where there's a lot of shitty systems, and you don't get to choose where you're born. You might become one of those guys that is their family just so happens to be probably at the worst place in that system, wherein they're struggling to eat. They can't get their Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Therefore, they can't self-actualize. They can't do the things they want to do. They can't paint. They can't study philosophy. They can't educate themselves. It's just like you might be born into one of those places, or you might be born with shit. Maybe you were born without an eyeball. Maybe you were born without a leg, with a third leg, and it makes life hard. And it's like, that's why you have to be grateful, but you also have to understand. You have to understand. Happiness, it's like we're not here just for happiness. It sure is nice, but I feel like people too many times associate that with what life should be like. Just happiness, that's what all that life should be, please. Don't fucking say that BS. That's not what life is, okay? That's not what it's nice as it might be, sure, to just feel nothing but pleasure all the time. Cool, I wouldn't say no. If I maybe had that option, God came to me, said, do you want to live a life of nothing but just pleasure? Sure, go ahead, give that to me. Why not? Why wouldn't I? But of course you have to know what non-pleasure is like to feel pleasure. So that if he did give me that eventually, I'd get bored. And then I'd say, yo, God, I don't like this. Give me some randomness. Throw some other shit in there. Throw some pain in there, maybe. So then I can go back to enjoying the pleasure even more. You enjoy the food the most when you're the hungriest, when you're starving. That's when you really enjoy it. So you have to understand that you need both sides of the equation. You need the yin and the yang. So people have to understand, well, what you can't have is joy. Be a constant work in progress. Have joy in it's just like you. Joy can follow you wherever you are. And as long as you're being your highest self, eudaimonia. It's different than happiness. But it's like joy and being your highest self moment to moment to moment, constantly working. Towards something that you want to do, towards something that you find purposeful, something that you find meaningful, something that you love, something that you want to do. constantly doing something that is just meaningful to you. You can experience joy, even if bad shit does happen. You experience loss. You experience, whatever. It doesn't have to be, the cause and effect quid pro quo definition that we've put on happiness. You can have more things. It's not just black and white. There's only happiness and sadness. There's more to it. It's not just happiness is all the way at the top. What if there's something above happiness? What if there's something next to it? Maybe just a bit below it that you'd be willing to accept, which could be, depends on, I don't know where joy is. Might be below it, might be next to it. I'm not sure. All I know is I'm fine with joy. With just simply doing what I love to do moment to moment. And to be able to do that, well, I need some money, right? Can money buy happiness? Yes, in a sense, yes. But it's not just happiness. It can buy the ability to live joyfully, to live doing, being able to self-actualize, because of everything that I said. And just like that, there's your wisdom, guys. I've said it all. Now I'm just going to shut up and let it play. Because I've said my piece. It doesn't. You don't have to wait for that quid pro quo. You don't have to wait to give yourself permission to be happy. You can be happy right now. You don't have to wait until that thing that is out of your control happens. Please. Do you know how fucking shitty that is? As much as you have to understand that a lot of what happens in life, a lot of what you are is out of your control. Maybe you shouldn't just concern yourself with what's in your control. But I mean, that is what being proactive is, because to concern yourself with what's not out of your control, it's not going to change anything. So I do see that the most valuable thing that you can do, the most effective thing, the best thing, in my opinion, right, in most people's opinion, that you can do is be proactive. And honestly, yes, even though you do exist in duality, I don't see the point in focusing on something that's not out of your control, right? Just as much as that is a part of, that which is, it's going to affect you. I wouldn't say be happy. I wouldn't say necessarily amor fati. That's kind of hard. But you have to understand, shit that's not out of your control is gonna happen, and to put your happiness and to only allow yourself to be happy if and when that thing which is out of your control falls in line magically by probability of the universe. Like, yes, hard work is in there, but you have to understand there's a lot of variables. A lot of people work hard and have nothing go well for them, have nothing happen for them, So you can't just tie your happiness to this event that may or may not ever happen. You can't tie it to that. You can't just say, I'm going to be happy if and when, if then, after I do this thing, after I complete this, after this happens, or after this doesn't happen, then I will be happy. After I buy this new thing. Look at the commercials. Everything in that commercial is telling you, after being alienated from work, after working so hard, obviously you want to come back and rewind and relax and just, not have to use too much cognitive resources. You just want to calm down, relax. You just want to be comfortable, have nice things that are not hard to do. Every single commercial tells you this product is going to help you gain something that you don't have. They're going to create a wound in you, Arrow style, and then they're going to tell you, hey, look, buying this product is going to fix that wound that we just created, or we enlarged because we reminded you of it. Here, look at this video. See, in this video, everybody drinking our beer is around friends, after you just isolated, 8 hours a day, every day for the past 5 years in a cubicle somewhere in the corner of an office. You're very isolated from work, going to that box, coming home in a box called a car, to a box called a house, to then watch your news on a box called a TV, where in this news, which is also mythology, it's propaganda, it's the way that you're going to think about the world, it's going to be your knowledge, your worldview, all of it is going to be given to you as an information processing system. Guess what this information's telling you? It's telling you that everything that you believe is right. Don't question anything. Don't think about anything. Don't ever question that anything that you think is not true. Everything that you think is true, and we're with you. We believe what you believe, and you're a good person for believing what we believe. You're a good person for being on this team. You're on the right team. That team over there, they're the shitters. They're the people that you should be against. They're your enemy, right? Doesn't work that way. It ain't black and white like that. It just ain't. It don't work like that. It's not gonna happen, cuh. Can't give in to that. No item is gonna bring you happiness. We always think, if only this would happen, then I would be happy. If only I got that car. If only I got that promotion. If only I got that shorty. Right? that shorty with the nice curves on her. Ooh, if only I had her. If only I could, be doing blah blah blah. Then I'd be happy. Yeah. Until you're not. Until that new car just becomes your car, and then the new bit goes away, and then it's not a new car anymore, and then it just becomes your car. It's just how it works. There's no thing that's gonna bring you. People believe. I think they're stuck in a false ideology. They're stuck in a false idea of what things might be like, of what happiness is. They don't have a good relationship with it. Like, you have to understand that. You very much do. Very much do. There's no cliches. There's nothing of what stories might talk about. It doesn't exist. There's no forever happiness. It's just experiencing stuff. The good and the bad. That's all it is. And let's try to work to make systems wherein we can limit the amount of bad that people might feel. We can limit the amount of bad. Like, we can have the amount of bad sort of be baselined around a certain level. Like, okay, this baseline bad, right? Because then do you really need motherfuckers experiencing this like this bad, when the worst that certain motherfuckers can feel is only right here, when other motherfuckers could let's bring people up, make sure that we're pretty even there on the type of shit that they're gonna feel. They might still feel shit at some point. They will, I should say. But let's make it so that there's more even the amount of shit that motherfuckers have to eat. Everybody has to eat shit,
Look at our fortune as a means to protect ourselves from occurrences that might threaten us, and not spend it as fast as we've earned it. I quote, "If a man has an independent fortune, he should regard it as a bulwark against the many evils and misfortunes which he may encounter. He should not look upon it as giving him leave to get what pleasure he can out of the world, or as rendering it incumbent upon him to spend it in this way." Regardless of your situation, let's say you're fortunate enough to have a freely spendable budget. What's the best way to spend it? Should you go shopping and spend it on material things? Or are there better, more satisfying ways to allocate your cash? Of course, it's up to you to decide how you spend your money. However, research suggests that spending money on experiences is ultimately more satisfying than spending it on things. Dutch professor Ab Dijksterhuis, author of several books about happiness, concluded that money makes people happy if they spend it on experiences, like traveling. Psychology professor Dr. Thomas Gilovich conducted a 20-year study showing that doing makes happier than owning. In an article on Forbes, Gilovich mentions 3 reasons possessions lead to less happiness than experiences. Firstly, it's because we quickly get used to new possessions. For example, buying a new car can be exciting initially, but the novelty wears off soon after the purchase, and having the car becomes the norm. Secondly, we keep raising the bar. Once we get used to the car, we look for a better one. The purchase of material possessions. Those
experiences are going to be fun until you have to come back home from your 3-day vacation and you realize, well, back to mundane reality, and it's gonna seem so shit. You're just like, man, why can't I always live in that fantasy wonderland of Hawaii? Why can't I always be on vacation? Why do I have to come back and do this? This is just boring. Look at this mediocre life that I'm living. Look at this shit. That's not what I wanted to do. This was never my dream. This is not what I went to college for. Please. It's like, be joyful. Find joy. Find eudaimonia. Find something else. Like, there's not just happiness. It's not just black and white like that, Realize that, and also make sure that you define and have a better relationship with happiness, Like, it's all of the above. There's different things. It's not just happiness, but also understand happiness better. That's also going to help you. Understand what it means to you. Because like you said, those experiences. Yeah, I do understand. I see that a lot. I wish I could travel. I really want to travel, but I can't. And it's like, well, not only, that's an example. There's other experiences you could get, yes. And that's good advice. It's like, well, if you have money and you feel like you want to use that to in some way make you happier, well, then buy yourself experiences. Buy yourself free time. Buy yourself time. That's 2 advice that we have so far in the video, right? Buy time, buy experiences. Make sure that you're not, giving your time away for money. Like, that should be the goal, right? That should be what we should try to aim for, because nobody really likes that. Nobody likes what they're gonna have to be forced to do. Yes, we're gonna have to have people out here giving people money. I'm doing it right now. A lot of fucking people are doing it right now because we have to, right? We keep the fucking thing going. We're cogs in a fucking machine. We keep it going. We have to do it. But it's like, that's just what we've been conditioned to believe. Maybe we don't have to do it. You know, maybe we could change the system, but it wouldn't change in our lifetimes. You know, it's too deep. And as long as that's the case, and as long as we can't provide value in such a way where we can, you know, that's what's good about capitalism, though, is that you can't actually get out. It's just, who's really gonna do it? You know, it's hard. It's hard to escape the rat race. You know, it's hard. But if you can provide value, you can do it. I mean, that's one thing that I can say about capitalism. Look, you can do it. At least you have that freedom. That's why it's better than feudalism, right? Like, you can get out. You really can. But it's hard. It's difficult. And not everybody can do it. And everybody wants to. Not everybody does it. How do you explain that?
Thus only brings temporary satisfaction. What we once wished for, then eagerly obtained, loses its power to keep us contented. Hence, Epicurus once stated, "Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hoped for." End quote. Thirdly, Gilovich states that possessions come with comparisons. Humans tend to compare what they have with what others have.
Comparison
Your
is the
new
thief
car
of joy.
may lose value when your friends buy a better
Comparison
car.
is the
This
thief
might
of joy.
encourage you to
Fuck
upgrade.
comparisons.
The paradox
But
of possessions
it's natural. I
is
understand
a
why it
false
happens.
assumption that the somewhat permanent, solid nature of property compared to experience leads to longer enjoyment. How come that experiences are better investments when it comes to happiness than material possessions? After all, televisions, cars, or houses last for years, while experiences like travel or going to a concert are just fleeting. Research suggests that experiences provide longer-lasting happiness. The enjoyment of the experience lies in the anticipation, the purchase, the experience itself, and the memories we cherish for the rest of our lives. Also, unlike material goods, experiences become part of your identity, and no one can take them away from you. Also, we cannot compare experiences the same way we compare things. Experiences are personal and unique, which makes it difficult to determine their value. So other people's experiences won't quickly devalue our own. Aside from buying time and experiences, there's another way to purchase happiness.
Coffee?
Spending money to make other people happy.
Oh, yes.
The act of giving is part of many religious traditions. In Christianity, for example, charity is one of the 7 heavenly virtues. And it's not surprising that many charity organizations have Christian roots. The zakat is the Islamic way of almsgiving and is considered an obligation for every Muslim and part of the 5 pillars, the fundamental practices of Islam. In Theravada Buddhism, generosity, also known as dana, is one of the 10 perfections, which are noble characteristics one develops on the Buddhist path. But aside from religious and spiritual objectives and morals, the act of giving has a positive effect on how we feel. Research by Professor Elizabeth Dunn from the University of British Columbia shows that we generate happiness for ourselves by giving money to charity. However, there's a caveat. In an interview for Boston University Radio, Dunn explains it's not only giving itself, but how we're being generous that decides how happy we feel. She distinguishes a few key ingredients that turn good deeds into good feelings. I quote, "The first one is connection. We're more likely to experience joy from helping others if we really feel connected with the people or the cause that we're helping. Second one is impact. If we can see the difference
that takes away from giving to the homeless man, because I mean, how much of a connection can you really have with a homeless man unless you go and you sit there and strike up a conversation and somehow, some way, rather quickly you build up a connection. But who's really doing that? You know?
Our good deeds are making, that seems to really unlock the emotional benefits of generosity. And finally, there's choice. The quickest way to strip the joy of giving away is to make people feel like they've been forced to give.
Wouldn't that take away from the religion bit? Because aren't people technically, well, they're not forced, but you're kind of like very like, they're like tapping you on the shoulder, like, hey, do this, But they're not necessarily, it's not very, front and center, like forced, but it's like,
End quote. Thus, through charity, money can buy happiness. If we use it to benefit people we feel connected to and out of choice. Postdoctoral researcher at Leiden University, Mara van der Meulen, explains that giving has short-term and long-term positive effects. I quote, "In the short term, this gives us a positive feeling. In the scientific world, it's known as the warm glow of giving. It has benefits in the longer term too, because it strengthens the relationship with the recipient. And if you have a close bond with someone, they will be more likely to help you if you get into difficulties sometime in the future." End quote. She also mentions that according to research, other people like you more if you are generous. And people who have a lot of friends are happier than people who feel alone. However, the way giving impacts human happiness.
Thank you, Summer, for my homebody lifestyle. Wherein I don't fucking see anybody in the summer, therefore I feel very fucking lonely out over the summer. Fucking hell. I feel very fucking lonely. Where are people? Where are you fuckers? Why is nobody hitting me up? I find that very interesting. That nobody hits me up, bro. I find that very interesting. But you know what? You're free to do whatever you want to do. Can't say, obviously if it's forced, it's not. It loses every single effect ever. Can't ever force anything on nobody. They have to do it themselves. They have to. That's what makes it special. But it seems like when you leave it up to themselves, nobody texts you, and it ain't that great. Ain't that great. As great as I know that I am, motherfuckers don't seem to find me that great if they don't bother to even send me a fucking text. If you're not the one to text first, motherfuckers don't be texting you back. It's an evil world we live in. I'm just saying.
Varies per individual. Some people simply don't experience joy by giving something to someone. Personality, childhood experiences, and family traditions play a role in this. To summarize, money buys happiness if one spends it right. Simple pleasures, time, pleasant experiences, and other people seem best to spend money on.
So those are the 3 key
Thanks for watching,
boys. That's how you want to know money can make you happy. Yes, if you and have the best chance of doing this, right? Can you buy yourself time? More time to do what you want, of course. Can you buy yourself experiences? And 3, can you give it away? Can you give it away? And just like that, with even my very long take in here, this is mainly just me talking this whole entire video. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys want me to react to next. Let me know if you learned something new. You got some goodness out of that. I hope that you did. And I hope that it will leave a long-lasting impact on you. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you learned something. I'm just repeating myself at this point. Einzelgänger. Hope that's how you say that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Leave a comment if you made it to the end, because if you did, I love you forever. You're the GOAT. Might donate to you. Might give you money. Only if you leave a comment, though, and I will pin it, and I will leave it a like. But no promises. Just saying, but you are most definitely the GOAT, because I talked a lot. And if you listened, well, I appreciate that a lot. I appreciate you, and I love you and everything that you do. You're an amazing human being. Keep doing you. Hopefully that you learned something here. Hopefully you got some value out of this. Leave a like, subscribe, and all of that good stuff, and I will catch you guys at another time.